Today we have a worksheet that's called Gloriana, Elizabeth's England. But we're going to take a look at the part 1 story of how Elizabeth came to be. Let's reel it on back to part 1 of Queen Elizabeth I. You have to understand, at first in Europe, there was only one kind of Christian. Almost everyone in the continent of Europe, if you asked them what their religion was, they would say Christian. And all that meant was that they were Catholic. Catholic Christians typically honor Mary as the perfect Mother of God. They give prayer to the saints, and they go to church at a service called Mass, among other things. And at one time in Western Europe, this was the only kind of Christian there was. But we're going to find out exactly how that comes to change. All of it has to do with a very dysfunctional family. Dysfunctional meaning messed up. And it belongs to the family of the King of England, whose name is Henry VIII. Henry has a particular dream. Henry wants a son. It's going to be a little difficult for him to get a son, and this is what's going to cause all the problems that are happening in England during the time of Elizabeth. It begins with Henry's marriage to Catherine of Aragon. She's the daughter of the King and Queen of Spain. But unfortunately, Catherine is not able to conceive a son, only a daughter. And that makes Henry say, I don't want to be married to you anymore because I want a son. Instead, Henry shacks up with new girlfriend Anne Boleyn. And now Henry believes he's happy because Anne is having a child. It happens to be a daughter, but he hopes she'll have a son soon. This kind of throws out Catherine's daughter, Mary, who now is no longer set to be the next queen after her father passes on. Mary is kind of shunted to the side. No longer a princess, just a lady, and she's declared in this new relationship with Anne Boleyn as illegitimate or no longer a part of the picture. This is a problem because in Catholic religion, in Christianity, the Pope would declare this to be not okay. The king just simply getting rid of a wife and getting a new one is kind of against Christian law. So the Pope declares this to be completely illegal and does not honor this new type of relationship with Anne. This doesn't stop Henry, though. Henry is a bold, strong, angry kind of guy. And if the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, says that he's not allowed to marry one girl and divorce the other, then he's just going to drop the Catholic Church altogether. And so Henry, on his own, decides to create a new church in England. And he calls it, guess what? The Church of England, or the Anglican Church. With this step, he completely dismisses the Pope and says, you know who the new head of the church is? It's me. The king is now the head of the church in England. All this takes place in the 1530s. So things might seem to be well off, but they're not. Henry quickly gets tired of Anne, his new wife, and because she doesn't bear him a son, only a daughter whose name is Elizabeth, he decides Anne is no longer the girl for him. But instead of just divorcing her because she's not a princess of Spain and getting Spain really mad, he decides to get rid of her by chopping her head off, which is what happens to Queen Anne of Boleyn. Now she's not queen anymore, she's just without a head. And this means that her daughter, Elizabeth, and his first wife's daughter, Mary, are both kind of out of luck. Because guess what? He decides to get married to a third girl this time, named Jane Seymour. And this is actually going to pick up and continue on the fourth and the fifth and the sixth wife. He's going to continue this pattern until finally King Henry dies. And when that happens, Mary, his first daughter, is eventually going to take over. Mary, however, is Catholic. And if you remember this picture now, we have two different kinds of Christian. There's one, the Catholic, and there's two, the Protestant, which is now the type of Christianity that is protesting against the Catholic Church. This is one of the things that King Henry VIII starts up in England. And from this point on, there's going to be some bad blood between Catholic and Protestant churches, because Mary, his first daughter, is a Catholic Christian, like her mom. But Elizabeth, like her father, King Henry, is a Protestant. And this means there's going to be some conflict going on between Catholic Christians and Protestant Christians all throughout Mary's and Elizabeth's reign. Elizabeth, all throughout the time of her early childhood, is afraid of the same thing that took the life of her mother, Anne Boleyn, namely having her head chopped off. And for the longest while, Mary, who takes over as the Catholic queen, she puts to death quite a few Protestants in the name of religious persecution. Elizabeth has to stay inside of a tower and basically just hope she doesn't get on Mary's bad side, because if so, the same thing that happened to her mom could happen to her. That concludes part 1 of Queen Elizabeth I. We'll find out more later after this.